Peace, everybody. What's going on? Welcome back. Welcome back. Here again to bring you some good information. And welcome to my podcast that I call Rational Lens Podcast, where truth and fact comes into focus. And you know what I need y'all to do before I even start, man? Go to my site, Rational Lens, on YouTube. Join the community. Trying to build up a good community, a good information, good people. You understand? People that want to share information and receive information. I'm trying to build up a community for that. So if y'all want to support me, go to my YouTube page, Rational Lens Podcast, and press like, share, get it popping. It's the only way we're going to build our community up of true thinkers and add on to the world of information and uplifting the conscious level. You understand? And if y'all support uplifting the conscious level of the planet, then definitely go to my podcast. Rational Lens Podcast, YouTube. Press like, share. Got a whole bunch of stuff on there. Matter of fact, YouTube, y'all on Facebook, y'all get it first before it even go there. So if y'all follow me here, stay in tune, Facebook. And if y'all want more of my information, go to my podcast, Rational Lens Podcast, where truth and logic comes to focus. And today, I'm going to talk about 3-Eye Atlas. Everybody's talking about it. 3-Eye Atlas. And my opinion. This is my opinion from my research and my observation of what I think this whole thing is. Tell you the truth, with me, I think it's a hoax. I think that it's a whole scheme to get us set up for something else, because you know that they're trying to bring in this new world order, or what I call global 2.0. I call it global 2.0 or globalization 2.0, because the guy from BlackRock, that's the terminology he uses. Globalization 2.0, meaning they're going to take it to the next level. There's been many new world orders. There's been many new worlds that they done created for us to keep our minds controlled and occupied with a lot of BS. But this one, globalization 2.0, is coming into now AI, automated systems, robots, digitalization, digital money, all that stuff, the Jetsons, you know, that model of the Jetsons, that cartoon that they showed us in the 70s. We're about to live in it right now. You understand? And that's the globalization 2.0 with your microchip, your computers, your automated systems, your AI, your robots. This is all what's a part of globalization 2.0. You understand? And so the thing now with this 3-Eye Atlas, they're talking about a comet coming towards the Earth, and it could be extraterrestrial life. And like I said, I'm just speaking from my opinion, from me doing research and past experiences. I think it's a hoax. I don't think it's real. I think it's something that they coordinating to get people to move in a certain way that they need them to move. And if they can create an alien scare, then they know that they can get people to move the way they need them to move, especially if they can create it through the media and make it look real, like we're really being attacked by aliens, or the contact of aliens is here on the planet. They can really control people. They already been gearing us up for it with all the movies, Judgment Day, Mars Attack, all these different extraterrestrial movies that they've been showing us on the big screen in the movies. So they already been gearing us up. They already been, getting our minds set on how extraterrestrials look. We see them in cartoons. We see them in the movies. They already gave us their description of how an extraterrestrial looked before we even saw one ourselves. So, like I said, they already been gearing us up for it. So now it's time to put the big play in effect and to see how the people react to it. First they said it was a comet. Now they're trying to turn it into extraterrestrial UFO ship coming towards us. You understand? So this is the reason why I think it's a hoax. And I think they're just spinning us, and they're spinning the narrative to create this big movie scene through the media to get us tapped in to what they need us tapped into, so they can guide us into this whole new new world order thing they're trying to put us into. You understand? What's going to be the norm, the new norm for everyday life, for the everyday enslaved people on the planet. You understand? So there's really no proof that it's extraterrestrial life coming towards us. It started off as a comet. And then they started telling us what it's doing from their professional point of view. The reality is how we know. We don't own no satellites. We don't own no supercomputers. Some of us ain't even knowledgeable to even understand comets and asteroids and to understand space with planets and stars and the things that's out there. So they're really talking to people that really don't know nothing about nothing. We really don't know. We really don't even comprehend what they're talking about, some of us. Us that did research or went to school to be a physics, astrophysics, or things of that nature can understand what they're talking about. But the everyday person don't know what a comet really is and how it works, or asteroid. We just don't know because they ain't gave us the knowledge. They ain't knowledged us on these things. In school, they really don't teach us about space. They really don't teach us about asteroids. They don't really go deep in depth. You understand? They don't tell us about UFOs, what they really are. Who really making these UFOs? Is it real extraterrestrial UFOs, or is it government made? Because I know that government can make UFOs. They can make aircrafts. That's how NASA started out. NASA started out as a aerodynamic military company that made flying aerodynamic ships and things of that nature. So I know that they can do the same thing. So how we know that it ain't the government? You know, we ain't knowledgeable enough with this technology to say, oh, that's a government craft, that's an extraterrestrial craft. You know, we are not really knowledgeable about things like that. We really don't understand what a comet is or asteroid. We just go off about what they told us. Everything is what they told us. And they're spinning the narrative now with other stuff that they telling us. But nobody really fact checking them to see if they're telling us the right thing. We wouldn't even know how to begin. You understand? So I think that it's a hoax. I think that it's not real. I think that they spinning us with their media, like they've been spinning us with media, making us believe stuff that ain't really what it is. Shaping and morphing our perception the way they want to. You understand? They've been doing it for years. They're the ones that own the satellites. They're the ones that own the broadcasting systems. They're the ones that's the prime information. They're looking at it. They're touching it before they even tell us anything about anything. So I think that it's a hoax. And so the first thing I'm going to go into to prove that it's a hoax, and don't get me wrong, it might be a comet. Comets come through space in our solar system, you know, every certain amount of years. But the way they trying to spin this thing, I think they're over-exaggerating. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the basics. Let's find out. For those that don't know what a comet is, let's just do basic stuff what they told us, right? What is a comet? All right, what is that? For those that know, they know. For those that don't, I'm trying to clear it up for you. I'm just gonna go off what they said because I don't want them pulling my stuff. Because if you say something outside of what they say, they're gonna pull you. So I'm gonna try to say what I need to say and say it in a way where I don't get blocked. All right. So what is a comet? Right? According to AI Overview, they say a comet is a dirty snowball made of ice, dust, and rock that orbits the sun. As it travels closer to the sun, it heats up, releasing gas and dust to form a glowing atmosphere called a coma, and one or two tails that can stretch for millions of miles. These are considered primordial remnants from the formation of the solar system. So a comet is made up of rock, dust, and ice. And when it comes close to the sun, they say, certain things happen. It starts to release certain gases and dust, and it starts to glow, you know, in the atmosphere. So that means that a comet interacts with the atmosphere. And we know that our atmosphere, which there's 7 layers of our atmosphere, consists of all different type of gases, burning gases. You understand? So these burning gases, when a comet hits it, it starts to flare, it starts to glow. You understand? That means that there's some type of reaction, there's some type of burning reaction going on. You understand? When a comet interacts with the atmosphere. And we know that we have 7 layers of the atmosphere. And I wanna give those to y'all, right? So y'all can understand the different layers of the atmosphere. So you have 7 different layers of the atmosphere, right? And that's the ozone layer. And we know ozone is gas. So this is something else y'all gotta take into consideration, because as they tell us stuff, they give us other things, you know, that they probably lied about, and then they happen to tell on themselves. Because a lot of times, well, people are saying now that our earth has a dome over it, right? And in the Bible, they say that the earth has a dome over it. But they told us that they didn't tell us we had a dome over us. They told us it's called the atmosphere, right? So that atmosphere, I hope y'all know, is the dome that's over our head. And that ozone layer consists of gas, burning gas, different types of gas. When they're hit with friction, they start to burn and they give off gas and they give off certain colors. You understand? What we call gas is what we call ether. And I've been explaining to y'all what ether is. Ether is a burning gas, and there's many different forms of ether. You understand? That's another class. But these atmospheres are nothing but different forms of ether. Burning gas, that's what ether is. A conscious burning gas. So it's not just a burning gas, it's a conscious burning gas, meaning that that gas has intelligence. When you talk about consciousness, you're talking about the mind. When you're talking about the mind, you're talking about thought. Anything that has to do with ether has to do with the mind, has to do with thought. Because that's what the things that make up our thoughts is made up of ether. Ether is a conscious gas that makes thought. And ether is made up of what they call etherons. And etherons are the particle aspect of ether. And when they move at a certain angle or 90-degree angle, these etherons create what you call light. And we know that light is created by the electromagnetic force, right? Which consists of photons, which can be a particle or a wave. And we also know there's different types of light. You understand? Infrared light, microwave light, radio waves, gamma rays, many different forms of light. Some you can see, some you can't see. The ones that we do see, they manifest in different colors and stuff of that nature. You understand? So that 3AI atlas, we see that as glowing. It's giving off a red. That means that there's some type of gas interaction. And whatever that gas is, it gives off that color. You understand? But it's interacting with the atmosphere, which we call ether. And so space can't just be empty, because if that thing is glowing, that means it's interacting with gas, ether. And that means that ether is what fills space. But they told us that space is empty. Space is not empty, it's filled with ether, it's filled with gas. It's filled with etheron particles that make ether. And when things interact with it, it causes friction, gives off light, heat, color. You understand? So those different aspects of the atmosphere, you understand, are ether. And it's a thinking liquid form of ether. I don't know if y'all understand what I'm saying. The dome that's around our heads is a thinking liquid form of ether. It interacts with your thoughts. That's how come you see the reality that you see. Because we already thought it into existence, and it's going through the ether, and that ether is just reflecting back what we're thinking. It's reflecting back what we want to see. So these are the 7 layers of the atmosphere. It says the Earth atmosphere is primarily divided into 5 main layers: the troposphere, stratosphere, the mesosphere, the thermosphere, and the exosphere. And you also have the magnetic sphere, which is just electromagnetism. And then you have ether, which is the liquid gas form that's doming the whole planet, right? It says some models list 7 layers, including the ozone layer within the stratosphere and the ionosphere. The ionosphere is the gas aspect of our atmosphere. The troposphere is what we see, is where weather takes place. So when you look up and you see the weather taking place, clouds, rain, that's the troposphere. And then you have the ionosphere, which is the gas aspect. Then you have the electromagnetic aspect. And then you have the ether aspect. That's the part that reflects our thoughts back to us in this reality that we live in. Right? It's where weather occurs, extending from the Earth's surface up to about 7 to 12 kilometers. The stratosphere, number 2, located above the troposphere. This layer contains the ozone layer, which absorbs ultraviolet radiation from the sun. So that's the part that protects us from the sun. Number 3, the mesosphere, the layer above the stratosphere where most meteors burn up. Y'all hear that? The mesosphere where most meteorites, got meteorites, asteroids, comets, right? When they hit that mesosphere, they burn up. Why? Because it's gas there. It's ether there. Ether is a burning gas, a thinking burning gas. Liquid ether, that's what is up there. That's how come in the Bible they say it's water above us and it's water above, and God had to divide the waters. That dome is the liquid water ether that's over our heads, that's dealing with our thoughts and reflecting our reality and the vibration of our reality. And then we have the water that we see, that we drink, that we bathe in, that we clean stuff with, which is another form of ether. H2O is a liquid form of ether that we drink. But the mesosphere is the layer above the stratosphere, which most meteors burn up. Say that again. Meteors burn up. So when they're talking about 3-eye atlas and it's glowing and it's giving off gas and all that other stuff, it's interacting with gas. It's interacting with the ether. And that ether is what they call fact, is what they call the mind. So that dome above our heads that the Most High put there is a liquid form of ether. And it interacts with your thoughts. And then it reflects the reality that we see around us. Because everything that we see is made up of thought. It ain't nothing in this reality that's not created by thought. Everything from your TVs to your microwaves, your refrigerators, everything, cars, planes, everything came out of somebody's mind. The things that we believe, the ideals and concepts, all came from out of somebody's mind. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, it all concepts that came out of somebody's mind. Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, these are concepts that all came out of somebody's mind. Mathematical equations are something that came from out of somebody's mind. People had to think it. Even you was a thought in your parents' mind to be created. So we live in a realm that's governed by thought. And that thought is ether. And ether is a conscious burning gas. And our atmosphere, those 7 layers of our atmosphere, is gaseous. Ether. Different forms of ether on different vibrations and frequencies. You understand? And when friction hits it, it's going to give off gas, heat, light, color. So when they're talking about this 3-eye atlas comet is glowing and it's moving in space, why is it glowing? Because it's interacting with gas. But they told us that space is empty. It told us there's nothing in space. So why is a comet moving through space and it's giving off gas and it's glowing and it's giving off color? It has to be interacting with something. So the ether is space. They didn't tell us that. They didn't tell us the thought form is space. And it's all around us. What you're calling space is ether. That's the spirit realm. That's where thoughts are created at, in space. Because thought needs to move around and interact with space, which is the ether, to create any type of thought. If y'all catch what I'm talking about. Right? So let's get back to the atmosphere. The thermosphere, the layer above the mesosphere, where the international space orb. The thermosphere, the layer above the mesosphere, where meteorites burn up, right? In the thermosphere is where the international space orb, this 3-eye atlas, right? NASA, right? International space orb, got to do with NASA. I'm going to tell y'all who run NASA, right? It's a certain group of people that run these things. And if y'all smart, y'all know who I'm talking about. They read a certain book. These people read a certain book. You understand? And they control and run everything from media to economics to the political system. But it's no coincidence that it says right here, the thermosphere, the layer above the mesosphere, where the international space orb, it also includes the ionosphere, which is the region of charged particles that reflects radio waves. So the space station that they got in the thermosphere, and the reason why they call it the thermosphere, because the word thermal means heat, right? And it's also including the ionosphere, where charged particles are at. But they told us that space is empty. And right here in the thermosphere, it's heat. Anywhere where there's heat, there's going to be light. There's going to be color, right? Especially if some interaction of friction is going on. And the ionosphere is also included charged particles. They call it charged particles that reflect radio waves. What is radio waves? Radio waves is a form of light energy. Got microwaves, infrawaves, gamma waves. So different forms of light. And these different forms of light are just a broken down aspect of what we call ether. Because when we talk about space, space is what you call pure ether. Those etherons that I'm telling y'all about that make up ether are intertwined in space. These etherons are intertwined in the fabric of space, and they move around in space, and they create ether, and they create light. Charged particles, right? Radio waves, microwaves, infrawaves, gamma rays. These are all different forms of light. So space can't be empty because these different waves of light is also in space, right along with the ether. These light waves wouldn't exist, or particles wouldn't exist, if ether wasn't the primary foundation to bringing those things into existence. Because ether is a burning gas that gives off light, heat, right? Thermal heat and light, and it also can give off different arrays of colors. Matter of fact, I told y'all, ether is what creates the electromagnetic light spectrum. And the electromagnetic light spectrum deals with photons, and those photons are the particles of light. That's the reason why we see. That's why we see the reality that we in. So our atmosphere has a lot to do of the way we think. It influenced the way we think, and it influenced the reality we see, because it gives off light. And light hits the eyes, and then it reflects after it breaks down those light waves in colors, spectrums, and they give us our reality of what we see. That light comes from burning ether, burning gas in the atmosphere. So I'm explaining to y'all how deep the atmosphere that's over our head is. Right? This thermosphere is where the International Space Station is. It's how they communicate with us. And it's also included in the ionosphere. So if that 3-eye atlas is moving through the ionosphere, interacting with charged particles, giving off gas, light, and color, right? The next one is called the exosphere. The outermost layer, which gradually phases into outer space. The exosphere, the outermost layer, which gradually fades into outer space. You understand? So these are the different atmospheres. And I just wanted to give y'all that so y'all can understand a little bit of how asteroids, comets, and meteorites, when they interact with that atmosphere's friction, it's going to give off heat, light, and spectrum of colors, right? So let's go back to what is a comet. And I gave it to y'all what a comet is, right? A comet is a dirty snowball made of ice, dust, and rocks that orbit the sun. And it travels closer to the sun. It heats up, releases gas and dust to form a glowing atmosphere called a coma, and 1 or 2 tails that can stretch for millions of miles. These are considered primordial remnants from the formation of the solar system. Right? So our solar system was created with ice, dust, rock. It's when the universe was unformed. And then due to the force, what they call gravity, right? It formed our solar system. It formed the sun. And then it formed these protoplanets, right? So these things that make up comets are remnants of a pre-solar system that existed before our solar system. So these comets been around for thousands of years, probably billions of years. Who knows? The composition and structure. Number 1, a nucleus. The solid ice center of a comet made of frozen gas like water, carbon dioxide, ammonia, and methane mixed with rock and dust. So in the nucleus of a comet, there's frozen gas, water, which everything needs water, the essence of life, water, carbon dioxide. We know carbon is a burning substance. We breathe out carbon dioxide. Taking oxygen, carbon dioxide. That's how come your breath is hot. Because there's a burning reaction, ether. Going back to the ether again. Water is nothing but liquid ether. And we know that water has intelligence. Because when you study water on a microscopic level, you can see the geometric lattice that it forms. Only way it knows how to do that, it has to have some type of intelligence. Ammonia, which is one of the primordial substance that was needed to create the life form on this planet. And methane is another one of those components. Because pre-existing Earth, that's the way it brought forth life. These things like water, carbon, ammonia, and methane, and nitrogen was in the atmosphere. And once those gases made their way into the water, and then the explosion from the electromagnetic sun, it started to create life. Single cell organisms, right? Protozoas. they call them. These single cell living organisms. And then things evolved from there, out of the water, because of the things like water, carbon, pneumonia, and methane. And it's mixed with rock and dust. You understand? Number 2, coma. A large glowing cloud of gas and dust that forms around the nucleus when it heats up and the ice vaporizes. So when that comet is going through those gases and its friction is heating it up, it's giving off that glow, that's because of the gas. And it says gas and dust that forms around the nucleus when it heats up. So those gases start to heat up, the water starts to vaporize, right? This is all due to heat. That's how you know there's some type of friction going on. And it's the friction of that comet moving through space, moving through the ether and those gases, right? And then it has this tail they call a coma, right? They was talking about the 3A Atlas tail, right? Number 4, the tail. 2 tails are formed as the comet approached the sun. A dust tail made of dust particles that are left behind along the comet's curved orbit path. Because it's made of dust. In the nucleus of that comet, it's dust there. Those dust particles are left behind because it's moving. You understand? And it's interacting with those gases and it's causing it to blow back and it's making a tail while it's moving. It says a curved orbital path. Why a curved orbital path? Because space is like fluid. And those things of matter like planets and suns and stars warp space. And this is where you get the curvature in space from, which brings forth gravity. You understand? So the reason why space is curvature, because matter warps space. And this is what creates the gravitational force. This is why we have gravity, because the matter that warps space. You understand? So that's why the comet moves on a curved orbital path. B, an ion tail, a straight tail of ionized gas pushed away from the sun by the solar wind. So there we go again, gas, ionized gas. Gas can be ionized. What happens when gas is ionized? That means that the atoms, the protons, electrons, and neutrons, that atom is gaining and losing electrons. Electrons is the electric aspect of an atom. You understand? And when that atom is gaining and losing electrons, that gas is becoming ionized. And when it becomes ionized, it creates light, it creates heat, it creates color. You understand? The solar wind is the electromagnetic field, and the electromagnetic sphere that is interacting with. This is the reason why the gas becomes ionized, and it creates the second tail. You understand? It says origin and orbit. Number 1, comets are thought to have formed in the outer cold region of the solar system and are remnants from its formation about 4.6 billion years ago. So these comets been around 4.6 billion years ago. They say the Earth is 3.5 billion years ago. I think that's when the universe was created. Right? It says, B, they travel in elliptical orbits, with some taking them far beyond the planets and others having short orbits close to the sun. So the reason why that comet is orbiting, because it's caught in the gravitational pull. And like I said to y'all, what creates the gravitational pull? Because the warping of space due to the matter. And because the sun is the heaviest thing in the solar system, it creates the gravitational force of making the planets rotate around it. You understand? But these comets move in an ecliptical orbit, with some taking them far beyond the planets and others having short orbits close to the sun. 3I Atlas have a long ecliptical orbit. But these comets are made right here in the solar system. And they've been in the solar system for billions of years. So that's a comet. So if y'all want to hear the rest, I'm going to leave. I'm going to come back to give part 2 of the installment of 3I Atlas. So if you want to come back and follow me, and I'll finish breaking down the rest of this information. What's up, Tim? I see you, boy. Follow me.